Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi, Lynn. Good to see you. Hey, everyone on Instagram Live and on Facebook Live. I so look forward to doing these transmissions every day. And it's wonderful to connect with you. Hi, dear. Hi, Pooja. Amazing to see you. So today, I wanted to talk about the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience that's held in the ancestral line, held by the ancestors, and also the wisdom and knowledge that's held in our past lives. Because we are in unprecedented times, because what we're experiencing now is so unique, it's so powerful, it's something that is bigger than us, that has been even prophesized. It's really important for us to understand and to connect to a deep knowing that there is more wisdom and knowledge that we can draw from that lies simply within our own psyche. When we are in a journey of remembering who and what we truly are, of becoming more self-realized, so when we're on that journey of awakening, or maybe some of you don't call it awakening, you don't associate it with an awakening or a spiritual path, when some of us may refer to it as simply just something's different. And when we're on that journey of realizing what and who we are, that we are not just this mind, that there is something, there's another powerful force that connects us to this other knowing, which is soul, our self. When we're on that journey, we start to realize that we have these superpowers of knowing that we can tap into. You know, when you just have this feeling that you just know, and it's not to do with your head can't explain it or work it out, but you just know deep down inside. It might be like a gut thing, it might be a heart thing, but you just know that something is the way that it is. And you know, it might even be a knowing about the origins of something, or that something is really right for you to do. We've all felt that at some time. And that knowing comes from a connection to our own self energy and our soul energy. So I use self and soul interchangeably. And when we're on this path and we start to stabilize and remember more and more, because we kind of forget in the moment, and something happens and we feel a trigger, we feel triggered, and it's often this like non-verbal like response from the body, because the body remembers, oh, this thing isn't comfortable, and we get this feeling arise and we immediately tense up or we react in a certain way, and it's protective by the body and the internal system in the mind. And then we forget in that process as well. We forget, and we just kind of blend more with the psyche, with the mind, and we kind of just we go back into that default setting of of trigger mode, and this is how I'm going to react. And when we're in this process of remembering, we remember more that, oh, that's a trigger, I recognize that, and I can deal with it and work with it differently. And this is all part of that self-realization, really anchoring more and more into self-energy all the time, and remembering with less gap who I am, what I am, and that, okay, I'm anchored into soul, and soul has got this, soul doesn't have to become overwhelmed or embroiled in this reaction. I can simply observe it and allow those things to come up and just work through it. That's that process of realizing our true nature. And in that process, we realize the true nature of reality. We start to realize that if I am this powerful being, I have a self and a soul that is connected somehow to this bigger, higher power that's out there, which some people call source or creative intelligence or God even, or whatever, doesn't matter. If I am like a part of this or connected to this in some way, then surely that means that we have this ability to also create. We have an ability to be more in flow, or more at the forefront or the driver of our future, of our life, of our destiny, of our reality. So we are all playing a role in this reality. All of our consciousness is connected, and when we're on this path, we start to realize that, and we see synchronicities, right? So things happen that just it's just like the universe just showing us, like, yeah, see, and reminding us and pointing these little signs and synchronicities that just kind of affirm things for us. So within each and every one of us and our soul, we are connected to our higher self. And if we've lived different lives, that means that we have embodied different bodies, and we have been connected. Our soul has been activated in those bodies, and that somehow there's got to be a connection to this life. And what if we could access that memory from our past lives, that wisdom, that knowledge? What if somewhere within us that wisdom and knowledge is accessible? How could that help us today? And how could that help us create the future, the new way, the new paradigm, the new world that we want to create? And now we have this opportunity. And I've been talking a lot about this in my transmissions. And also, it's very similar with the ancestral line. So this body holds the DNA, holds the wisdom of my ancestors before me. And I know that because I do a lot of work with my ancestors, and I meet them fairly regularly, and they show me and they tell me things. And one of the main things I've realized when I've been tuning into my ancestors and what they have to say is that they had a really clear vision from generations and generations and generations back of the wisdom of the ancestors that I don't even know, that may have come from other countries and other parts of the world that I don't even know about. Yet their vision was so clear, and somehow they knew in some way that I would be here, sat here, transmitting, spreading these messages out to the world and having an impact on many lives throughout my lifetime. And many of them sacrificed their life. And many of them made choices knowing that future generations would also be stuck in those roles as slaves, for example, or as indentured laborers, speaking specifically about my lineage, my ancestral lineage. And those decisions were made knowing that they would be stuck there for generations, but that there was, at the end of that, or there's no beginning and no end, right? But at some point within this journey, it would mean liberation for us, that then something that would happen that would change our ancestral lineage forever. And my parents have had a really huge part to play in that, have been the ones to change things. And then I've come next, and my sister and brother. And so there is so much wisdom and knowledge that is held within the ancestral line. There's so much treasure to be found there. Often when I go home to Mauritius, there on one hand, people really do revere the ancestors and really are grateful for the ancestors and what they did for us to get us to where we are now. But sometimes there's also this other side where we regard the ancestors as having been very primitive and uneducated, and they didn't know very much and were unable to love, and whatever, all the stories. Those are just some of the stories that I heard. And there is truth in some of that. And in the same time, there's also extraordinary wisdom and love and sacrifice, devotion within all of that perhaps we haven't recognized fully. So in order for us to talk about that, or to come full circle back to this idea, which may seem really abstract for some of you at the moment, if you're very new to the idea of ancestors or the wisdom in the ancestors and connecting with the ancestors or in our past lives, if this is very new to you, I'm going to break it down a little bit more. So I want to actually talk about our shadow. And I've spoken about this in other transmissions, that our shadow or resistance, that stuff that's there that we don't want to look at, that we're used to suppressing, it brings to the surface what's standing in the way of our heart being open to love and compassion and kindness to ourselves and to others, and to letting that love in. Also, it's what's stopping us from opening our hearts to, for example, the challenges that we face, like the virus. There's so much projection at the virus for being this bad thing, for killing people and causing suffering. At the same time, it's part of this natural higher intelligence of life. Like, it's come in and it's created massive shifts and openings and realizations for so many of us. It's really awakening us to a different perspective and a different way of being, bringing us together in a different way. So our shadow is really important because it brings all of that to the surface, and it allows us an opportunity to see what was in the dark, bring it into the light. So we're all wounded, and we're all inflicting wounds on each other, ultimately, when we are in that state of fear and anxiety, and we are blended, we're stuck in that loop of fear and anxiety. We are wounded, and we're inflicting wounds and suffering on others. And the human experience makes it difficult, or makes it challenging, should I say, for us to stay anchored in our self energy. And it's easier for us to default into the fear and anxiety in that cycle, because we've created a whole identity around it from childhood, when we didn't fully know how to deal with challenging circumstances. And so we defaulted into the fear and anxiety loops and trauma settings and loops. And at that identity moving forward, which was based around protecting us, then created our behaviors and our interactions with others. And so this karmic loop where we've created suffering in ourselves and in other people is a part of our default setting. And this can be a really scary world, because then we see others and other things as scary. So the coronavirus is scary. It's good, you know, because it can kill us, because ultimately there's a wound there, there's a fear there that we have unresolved. That if it were resolved, that fear wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be afraid of dying from the coronavirus. So this world is really scary, but if we think about this in a more broad sense, like we're creating a really scary world all of the time, and we're allowing our fears and anxieties and our previous trauma or karma or past experiences, also from the past life and from the ancestral lineage, because these are energies that get passed on. We're allowing this to create a scary world for us. So then other cultures become scary. Other religions become scary. Everybody gets typecast as a terrorist or a fanatic or whatever it is. And the whole nations start to become scary. Whole parts of the world start to become like weird and scary. And we start to really divide things up. And that's why it's been easy for colonization, imperialism, for war to take place, all this division, because ultimately we still have these fear and anxiety triggers within us that make it easier for us to be like, okay, yeah, send troops there and like just deal with it, because it's kind of scary anyway, right? Like, and anyway, we can just turn a blind eye to it and pretend it's not happening and suppress our guilt for being complicit in this. And this further feeds into this cycle, because then we become paralyzed. We don't know, we don't realize why we are paralyzed. We find ourselves in moments of severe anxiety and even depression, confusion sometimes, like, I just don't know what's going on. And it's this complex web of karma that we are just weaving, and then our own guilt is further weaving that, and then we become paralyzed, and this cycle of suffering continues for ourselves and for others around, because we simply project that. And at the same time, we are simply innocent children, and we've forgotten to see ourselves with each new birth as innocent children. And that ultimately, when we come into our soul energy and we anchor more into our soul energy, this is our opportunity to really see ourselves again as innocent children, and to work on the need to judge ourselves for our past actions and the need to judge others for their actions. And if we can all just come back to this innocent childlike perspective and knowing that we are all just children of this planet, maybe we can start to slowly unravel from this cycle. You know, we create the demons within us. It's our own ego. It's our own inner psyche. It's in the energies that we've created within ourselves. We've cultivated these energies for such a long time that they've created their own entity. They've created their own personalities. And these energies within us stop us from really truly realizing the true nature of reality, because our perspectives, like we've put glasses on, those energies that we've cultivated within us, those fears that have turned into our demons. It's like we've put these glasses on and everything that we see is different. So rather than repressing this and pushing it away, because as we start to self-realize, we start to become self-aware, we start to like see those aspects of ourselves, we're like, ugh, oh wow, that's there. Sometimes we can go back to that default setting of like, I'm just gonna like ignore it. I'm just not going to see it. I'm going to ignore it. And you know what? We can spend whole lifetimes in that situation where we've started to become self-aware and we're seeing something and we're just like, nah, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to deal with that aspect of myself. So we can literally switch that up in this moment. We can choose to look at that darkness and that resistance and that shadow and bring it into our field of consciousness we can purify it, because we don't need to like do anything crazy to get rid of it. We don't want to do that. We don't want to get rid of anything. We can give it what it needs in order to transmute, to change the vibration of its energy, or purify it, or cleanse it, or whatever you want to say, shift it. They're all different words for the same thing, which is we're just going to work on that part of us and change its energy. So it becomes like our treasure. It shows us how to shift it, how to purify it. And then it shows us what we have there to work on. It shows us more. It shows us where there's other resistance, other darkness, and we can again purify that, and we can enjoy in that process. It doesn't have to be horrendous, challenging. I mean, it will, there will be parts of it that will be challenging, and sometimes it will, there will be a lot of emotion that comes up, and sometimes we will go through our dark night of the soul and it will feel like we're being stabbed in the gut. But it won't always be like that. Not all of our shadow and resistance is going to come up in that way. So how can we access this treasure? Much of our, if you just tune into what are the most challenging situations, triggers, people, issues, what are the most challenging things that you've encountered in your life? So it could be like having given birth, or having to change where I've lived, my location, having to overcome a particular health condition, dealing with opening my heart, allowing others in, trust, whatever it is for you, that you can say, like, what are the top 3 things so far in your life that you're like, wow, that's been the most challenging or difficult thing for me to deal with so far. Those are the biggest clues that you're going to have to what are your big challenges that you faced throughout your past lives and throughout your ancestral lives, because this is all connected. Much of what we experience in this life is simply we're compounding what we're already carrying. So there's also this aspect of this life that attracts like similar traumas and similar situations. Like you have a friend and you're like, I just keep noticing that she's just like attracting the same destructive relationships, and I don't get it. I don't understand why she's still always attracting those same kind of men. It's because often we're carrying something really big and profound, like from our ancestral line or from our past lives, that we still haven't resolved. And so in this life, soul, we are actually going to attract those same situations because we want to see the treasure in it. We want to overcome it. And we want to move and evolve our soul to the next level of existence, so that we have this new level of consciousness that's actually going to have such profound impacts on everything, on everyone on the planet. So we attract this. So if you tune into like, what are those big things in your life, it's going to give you a clue. The big challenges in your life is going to give you a clue to what you brought into this life from the ancestral line and from past lives. And so you don't need to like go to a past life regression therapy to find out, what did I carry in with me and what do I need to clear? Like, you can get these really big clues. And again, these challenges hold so much wisdom, because they are our opportunity to purify. And in that process, we purify, we realize all these incredible things about ourselves. We realize all these amazing things about our own technologies and about the healing technologies, particularly, that we have access to. We learn how to heal something so fundamental and so deep and so important. And we realize that we can be the teachers that this planet is so longing for. We don't have to be a spiritual teacher, but even in our own family, in our own neighborhood, in our own community, we can then share these tools for others to be able to do the same. So let's bring this back full circle to the wisdom that is held in our ancestral line and in our past lives. This is real. This is there. And this wisdom that is held are the keys to creating and manifesting this new world that we are right in the middle of creating. This virus is a beautiful opportunity that we must see and welcome in with love. It's what many of the indigenous cultures around the world are saying, that this virus, that anything of this nature is like an elder brother or sister that's come to show us the way, to show us how to face ourselves, face our fears, face our trauma, to how to purify it, how to learn from it, how to take and access the treasure, and then how to teach that to others, how to feed that back into the collective consciousness. That's our legacy. That is what's going to continue. That cycle of creative intelligence will continue and continue when we are no longer here in the physical form. And then we'll come back into a future life, having purified in this life, and we will be at a different level, and we can be at that level, and we can enjoy the new cycles and the new teachings that we are going to come into this world with to share and spread. And thus the evolution of the human race will continue, of sentient beings, of Mother Earth will continue as our soul returns to do this work. How amazing. We must not stay attached to this life, because we have many, many, many more to live, much more treasure to access in those lives and to bring to the world. But I can share more about that in future transmissions. For now, I encourage you all to tune into your top challenges that you faced in your life. Write them, speak about them, but hold them as soul, as self energy. Hold them, observe them from the seat of your consciousness, from the seat of your soul, in a neutral perspective. Reflect on them and allow them to sit there, and allow your consciousness to show you slowly over time what there is to be seen. The mind will try and come in and will want to know, will want to try and work it out. You'll write it down, and the mind will want to come and be like, okay, well, what was that about? And let's figure that out. And we can work on those parts of us, those parts of our minds that want to figure out. They're so helpful. They're so beautiful. They've guided us to this point, but we can just ask them to relax a little bit, because we want to see what wisdom can come forward when we are relaxed into the seat of our soul. And those helpful parts of us that want to come in and figure out, they'll understand if we keep coming back and speaking to them and saying, I know that you want to figure this out. I know that this is really important to you. But is it okay if we just relax into this and just allow ourselves to be and allow the wisdom to come through? And then see how throughout the day, the weeks, the months, you start to know, you embody this knowing, because this is the technology of soul. When we can get ourselves out the way, we can get the mind out the way, we can quieten things down, we can hear ourselves, we can hear our soul. This channel, this connection to our higher self becomes clearer, and we just know. And that's it. We don't need to know anything else except for the fact that we just know. That's all we need to know, that we know, and that knowing is enough. So allow the signs and synchronicities to then come and be like, oh yeah, let me show you this and show you that, to show you that, yeah, confirm to you that what you're feeling and what you're knowing is something really profound. This is the beginnings of the journey into embodiment of self and soul, embodiment of the knowing, of the wisdom, the innate wisdom. that we channel from our higher selves, that we also channel from the field of consciousness, from the creative intelligence, from source directly. And in time, you'll learn to discern between what's coming from your higher self, what's coming from source, what's coming from the ancestors, what's coming from your guides, even. What a beautiful, fun, exciting journey this all is. If you have any questions, please, please, please get in contact with me. I would love to answer your questions if I can, or direct you, or just tell you that I can't. I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments. I'd love to see your comments. I'd love to connect with you. So please stay in touch. I hope you've enjoyed this transmission. I've so enjoyed sharing it with you, and look forward to more opportunities to share more of this wisdom and knowing. So please, please, please check out, my husband and I created a brand new free course called Protect Your Mind, Body and Energy Fields, sharing simple tools to support us in these challenging times. The link is available on my timeline. It's available on my Facebook timeline, and on my bio in my Instagram profile. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful weekend, and see you at 11:11 tomorrow.